Hello vinyl community, I'm back again with another Tales of the Deadwax, and today I'm talking about SST, or as we say in German, Schallplattenschneidtechnik, or as translated into English, record cutting technique. Now, SST has been around since 1969, but today I want to talk about its current incarnation and owner, Daniel Krieger. Now, what was the inspiration for doing this one? It was really this LP here, which I have not yet cleaned up. This is a Duke Ellington and his Orchestra LP from 1943, put out by a sub-label of ORG called Circle Records. So Circle Records is finding these old recordings, they're cleaning them up, they're digitizing them, and what I've noticed about SST is that they do a fairly good job with digital cuts to lacquer, and I think Daniel Krieger is really a master of this. I haven't cleaned this up, but Daniel Krieger's Deadwax is a KR, sometimes it looks like a plus, then there's a little bit of a space, and then SST. In this one, in the Deadwax, he put Duke on one side and 1943 on the other. So just to show you another example here, there was a reissue campaign of the original Star Wars trilogy records. This is Empire Strikes Back. This was a gold, pressed on gold wax. Now, what I'm noticing about Sony is Sony has its own dedicated mastering studio, which has been cutting stuff to digital. So Mark Wilder at Battery Studios, which is owned by Sony, is basically taking all of its sub-labels, so Columbia, RCA, Arista, just to name a few, and you know, some of the digital transfers are being transferred to Daniel to do lacquer cuts and press them onto wax. So Sony is basically trying to put out all of its back catalog like some of the other majors. So this one was pressed at MPO, and here is just an example of the Deadwax here with Daniel Krieger. Now, another one of Sony's is the latest singles reissue, which is really not too bad. Again, this was put out by Warner Brothers, at least the movie was, but the soundtrack was done by Columbia, so kind of a strange relationship there, but Daniel Krieger got this one. Also pressed at MPO. Now I'm going to talk about some of the other stuff that I have with Daniel Krieger. I have a bunch of stuff, but I just grabbed a few things. This is Christian Löffler. Mare is the name of the LP. This is electronic, but it's more in a chill wave type of vein. It was pressed on clear wax. I have no idea who actually pressed this record. There was no indication of who did the pressing, but it was nice. It was done on clear wax, and you know, if you're curious what it sounds like, here you go. So I'm a big fan of ORG's issues of the Black Lion series. So a lot of these are reissues that were put out in the 70s by this label. The first dozen or so were done by Bernie Grundman, but maybe because of where the tapes are at, or because they're doing digital transfers, SST has been doing the cuts of these records. Now, this one was not done by Daniel Krieger, it was done by his brother Theo, who cuts there as well. Now, there are a couple other mastering engineers there, so there's Alex Nimmerman and Mark Wagner. I don't have any of their cuts at all, so I can't show you an example of their Deadwax signature, but again, here's Theo's. This was pressed at Palace. All the Black Lions have been done at Palace, and it's just fantastic. Bud Powell, classic jazz, hard bop, passed away far too soon. If you want a sampling of what he's like, here you go. Alright guys, so this is a band that I'm a big fan of. They never went anywhere. It's a German DJ trio that does dance / disco music, or at least modern. They are Space Ranger. Now what I like about Space Ranger and their 12 inches is that they usually have a nice space theme. So that was Yuri Gagarin. Here is John Glenn. I do want to play a sample of this one. The song is Herbal Cake. This was done by Daniel Krieger, and it was wonderfully pressed at Record Industry in Netherlands. Okay, last example for you. Some people would call it an oddity based on the cover, but this is another German group, electronic, called Cow. And yeah, this is Shanghai Money on Compost record. And yeah, the back cover is a little bit disturbing. But this is an interesting record. It's like hip-hop with very interesting samples, but there's no rapping in it. So yeah, so here's just a couple of samples for you. So that was SST, guys. Again, most of my SST cuts I've been a big fan of. I thought they did a really good job. I think in the future, though, I'm looking at doing a kind of a Star Wars soundtrack comparison, because I want to take the gold disc and compare it to an original. I'm also interested in taking the 40th anniversary cut and seeing how that compares to them all. So that might be coming down the line. Anyway, there you go. You got a comment. Do you have any records from SST in your collection? Let me know what you think. Shoot me a comment down below, and I'll catch you next time.